think we're good to get started.
I don't see how you mute.
Okay.
Just so I can be heard and seen a little bit better. Morning. My name is Cynthia Carnine. I am the Director of Government City Housing Authority, and I am the co-chair of today's Affordable Housing Investing Council. Thank you everyone for attending today, those online, and the person for today, for the important meetings. We are going to start with some brief opening remarks from our co-chair, Senator Russ Hospital and Representative Kenton Johnson. Our senators, thank you for being here.
I need to check.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you for sending this task force. I was at an event the other day. He actually mentioned that General Assembly, because that General Assembly had for the agricultural industry. And I was thinking about it. It's been the best General Assembly that we've had for affordable housing. And we plan to build upon that work that we did this past year in the task force, and I really look forward to seeing what we can bring to the table, how we can help Delaware and find and afterwards with problems all together. Really, thank you all for being here, for doing this process. Because we're going to make a little work. Thank you.
Thank you. For the folks online, are you able to hear that? No. Okay.
No, not really.
Okay, I think we're going to need all of our speakers to come to the podium. And sorry, everybody, for the tech difficulties. This is our first rodeo, so just hang in. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Johnson.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And good morning, everyone. So, wow, I'm feeling pretty good. So very optimistic and so happy that we are all here today because we recognize the need for affordable housing. And not only do we recognize it, we're all here because we want to do something about it. And that is pretty darn amazing. When I think about housing in general, and I've said this before, the first thing, because I'm a geek, I'll tell you that now, I'm a little nerd. The first thing that comes to mind for me is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I always think about the triangle and the things that you need at the bottom to achieve self-actualization. And at the bottom is that security. That is your structure, your home, your food, your water, the things that we just think just ought to happen, but they don't always happen for everyone. And so while we're here during this time, and as we continue with this task force, my commitment, and I hope all of our commitment to this, is that this is not just a thing during this time. That once we finish the work and the recommendations that come from this task force, that we commit ourselves, that we continue to do the work. Because the reality is this, at some point, we stop doing the work. And here we are. How did this happen? So we have to also charge ourselves with, treat this experience like your strategic plan. What do? It doesn't sit somewhere after you finished it and you go about your business. No, it sits and you open it, you review it. Am I in line with what the goals are? What do I need to change? And my prayer for this group is that we keep that in mind as we move forward. Again, thank you so much for being here. I'm honored to work with all of you guys because we're going to get some great work done for Delawareans.
Thank you. So folks who are in the room and folks who are online, you should have an agenda. So we just ticked off that first agenda item. which are our co-chair remarks. Because of the limitations of our tech today, I am going to ask that each task force member come up to the podium to introduce their name, their organization, and share one thing that they are hoping to get out of this task force. We ask that you do that in a minute or less. We'll take the folks who are in person first, and then we will get the folks that are online.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, everybody online, everybody in the room. I'm David Edgell. I'm the Director of the Office of State Planning Coordination. We have been working, our office and DSHA, sort of collaboratively for over, I'd say over a year now, sort of on these issues. I'm really excited that this task force has come to be. Matter of fact, that was one of our early ideas, was to get everybody in the room to talk about solutions and ideas. I don't have one thing I'd like to see out of this. I got three things. I've been saying for a while to those who've talked to me, I'd like to find at least 3 local governments out of this that would like to collaborate with the state agencies, private sector, to really address this issue. And I think as we get talking more about the role of comprehensive plans and land use and zoning, that will become clear what we mean by that. But I think that's a good goal that I have for this group. Thank you.
Yes, actually, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Karen Speakman. I'm the Executive Director of Neighbor Good Partners, and we are in Dover, and we are an affordable housing community development organization. We work throughout the state, providing housing counseling, financial coaching, as well as housing development assistance. And we have a loan fund as well for affordable housing, community facilities, and neighborhood revitalization work. Key things we need to address. I have a whole list, of course, sort of like, but the key things I see are homeownership gap for people of color, and more rental housing in terms of general, but particularly for low and moderate income residents. And I just learned this at a conference recently. 25% of the housing stock nationwide is being sold to investors. Do we want the American dream to be rental housing?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Kevin Spence, and I'm the Executive Director of the Delaware League of Local Governments. I've already had the opportunity to collaborate with Caitlin and Vanessa with some of the disaster and recovery housing, so I'm just looking to get involved further. And Dave, we'll have a conversation too, getting you involved with local governments, as I mentioned. I'm really just interested in knowing about this. Thanks to the co-chairs for appointing me to this body. And this is a very exciting and timely subject. And I'm just looking to increase collaboration and support all of the ventures as I can in my role. So thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
Hi, good morning. Amy Walls from Discover Bank. I do Community Reinvestment Act activity there. I'm also a member of the Delaware Council on Housing. Happy to be here. Really interested in the task force, specifically as it relates to creative financing. What are some really interesting ways that we can help to solve the problem, the many problems and the variety of problems that there are, but happy to be a part of it and really excited for the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm the CEO with Habitat for Humanity of Newcastle County, one of the 3 habitats here in the state of Delaware. Honored to be part of the task force. We provide affordable housing. We're a general contractor, also a mortgage lender. We also provide repairs for low to moderate income homeowners so they can stay in their homes. I think one of the things that I would like to see as an outcome of this task force is more broad partnership with governments, with for-profit builders, with other entities and the nonprofits. The nonprofit housing providers cannot build enough affordable housing on their own to meet the needs. So we need more creative solutions across the board. Thank you.
Next task force member, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mike Ryman. I'm the current president of the Home Builders Association of Delaware. We represent about 350 companies and individuals that are affiliated with the home building industry throughout Delaware, about 22,000 employees throughout the state. My day job, I'm a civil engineer with Becker Morgan Group. Really excited about being a part of this task force and looking forward to working with all of you. I think the most tangible thing I want to see come out of this is some very specific goals, some very specific tasks that we want to accomplish. I've been a part of some task forces in the past, very good at identifying problems, very good at having conversations, not so good in implementing the things that come out of those task forces because they're not specific. We need to be specific and we need to outline those and we need to follow up and follow through. Thanks.
For the folks online, we just have a couple more in-person folks and then we'll get to you guys.
Morning. How are you guys?
Good morning. My name is Jerome Heisler. I'm representing the manufactured housing industry. I'm with the Rabel Group, managing partner. I've been in development for close to 40 years. We are involved with apartments, manufactured housing, and for sale housing as well. We rent single family homes. Most of our development, if not all, is in Newcastle County. I've been involved legislatively since the early 90s with apartment and manufactured housing in Dover. I'm hopeful but skeptical of the output from this committee. This is a really complicated topic. It's a balancing act between protection of the owners of homes and tenants of homes, the incentives to provide for developers so they will build more housing, and civic groups, which in Newcastle County at least, create the biggest impediment for more affordable housing. I'm actually working on a tiny home community, and supposedly there are thousands of people opposed to it online. And when I had a civic meeting in this room, sort of scary, I was there. There was several hundred people opposing it. So affordable housing is a challenging concern, as all of you know. It has profound impacts in housing security, whether people have better education outcomes, whether people have better safety outcomes. So we need to address this issue. If it's not addressed, we're going to continue to have higher infant mortality, continue to have higher birth rates for teenagers. All these outcomes are related to housing security. So for me, it's a passionate issue. I'm on the board of Planned Parenthood. I see the results firsthand, and I just really pray we get a good outcome here. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Deborah Burgos here on behalf of the Delaware Apartment Association. We are an organization for owners and operators of multifamily housing and rental units in the state of Delaware. Our owners have about 35,000 rental homes in the state of Delaware. For my real job as a vice president of property management for Evergreen Apartment Group, we have about 1,600 rental units in Newcastle County, all of which are at the lower end of the HUD's affordable fair market rents. So that is the business that I am in on a regular basis. In addition to the production of affordable housing, which of course is critically important in the state of Delaware, I am hoping that we are looking into ways to reduce expenses for housing. So things like utilities, taxes, business licensing, the cost of labor, just there's a multitude of things that go into providing safe and affordable housing. As those prices rise, so does rent. So if we can find ways to reduce those expenses, we can hopefully reduce the increasing rental expenses and keep housing affordable in Delaware.
Yeah.
Morning, everyone online. Good morning, everyone in person. My name is Corey Thompson. I'm a citizen of Delaware. Obviously, I'm here, but I'm also employed by Newcastle County Police Department. and also a member of the Delaware Army National Guard as a sergeant. For me, as Representative Johnson stated, the hierarchy of needs is very important. When I came to Delaware, because I'm from Trenton, New Jersey, grew up in an urban environment, know what it's like to experience housing insecurity, poverty, low socioeconomic status, and and so forth. I was able to work myself through all those things by the strength of my grandparents, come to Delaware, go to college. But obviously, I experienced the same situation in college as well. We talk about finances, we talk about money. We have these organizations with groups that are looking to help, but they don't really help. It's more of just a title and someone that's up there saying that I want to give back to the community. When it actually comes down to it, they just use it as a marketing tool to get more money for their companies. So I have that experience as well. So now being in law enforcement 11 years now, I see it on the back end, going to these environments, going to these homes. Now, granted, every officer might not be as passionate as I am because they might not have the same experiences. They might have had their parents in their lives. But we're talking about affordable housing. We go to, 9 times out of 10, we go to these environments, crime occurs. Why? Because they don't have food, because they don't have water, because the lights are off. So it's like, who can they make contact with? They have the resources out on their in the policing office or the property manager, but most of the time they don't have the information. So what do? How do you go into the situation and try to, number one, keep the scene safe, give the proper resources and the service that they need, and then make a good decision and maybe split-second decisions at a split-second time? How do we do that? So now when I was asked to be a part of this, I was like, why not? Why not do it? So I hope to learn more about affordable housing, what that means. And also I could be an advocate, not just to the community that I serve, but also the citizens I come in contact with that are visiting Delaware or looking to come to join Delaware. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, now I am going to ask Senator Hocker to introduce himself.
Thank you, and I thank all the members for being part of this. I think it's very important. I hope you can hear me. Okay, I think it's very important as I just finished my 22nd year in the General Assembly, and I see this to be a problem the whole time through my 22 years. But as the minority leader in the Senate, I put myself on this task force because of the experience I've had in this field. I was half owner of CDA, which started out going to build 94 apartments for rent. We got about halfway through it and decided that wasn't a way to go, so we started condoing. We had very few apartments left, and because of government intrusion and government wanting to run our apartments, really, whether it's town, county, or state, we sold out. I am an owner of a 60 manufactured home park. I have rentals in that park. They're affordable renters. Many of them work for me, and I've also helped owners purchase homes in that park and help finance them to give them, the affordable housing they need. But unless I feel this committee is going to come up with an awful lot of good solutions that we need, dealing with problems that I see every day in the business, in this rental business and affordable housing business that I see. But if they're not followed if the recommendations aren't followed by the higher ups, we're wasting our time, the way I see it and the experience I've had. I am in the process now of developing over 26 acres of workforce housing. I put up the property and partnered with Shell Brothers because I know the need we have for this, and they will be affordable renters with an option to purchase. And hopefully this project will get started right away. But this is a town problem, but you go through hurdles wherever you are, and these hurdles just add to the cost. Those hurdles need to be stopped, and many of the expenses that we see stopping these projects need to be subsidized. Thanks, and I'm looking for good things to come out of this task force.
Thank you, Senator. Now I will ask Representative Halovsky to introduce yourself.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this task force. I think we have to look at everything and realize folks come from different backgrounds and different opportunities. But one of the things that I think that we can't deny is the fact that housing is more expensive than it was just a few years ago. We had 19 to 21% inflation over the past 3.5 years. And that has driven up the cost of building, the cost of renting, the cost of owning, with insurances and everything else. For example, if you're making $60,000, it's $5,000 a month gross. And if you're spending 30% on your housing, that's $1,500. And so $1,500 now in Sussex County buys you a 1-bedroom apartment. And you think back just a number of years ago and how different that was, how different it was. You could get an apartment for $700 a month, and now it's double that and more. So I think that all these factors have to be taken into account: the growing need, the growing population of people who cannot work where they or cannot live where they work, especially in eastern Sussex County. And I'm sure it's pervasive throughout the state. So I'm hoping that we come up with solutions, just like Mr. Ryman said, and actually follow through and make a difference in people's lives, because really the survival of businesses and the survival of people are really counting on us to do the job we need to in order to make a difference. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. We've got 2 more. I'm going to kick it to Director Cobb, and then Wes, you can wrap us out.
Good morning. My name is Dana Cobb. I am the Director of the Division of Climate, Coastal, and Energy within the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control. The biggest thing that I would like to see come out of this is using energy efficiency measures as a cost-effective tool for looking at affordability in housing, also looking at building codes, understanding that there's a direct correlation between just 1% of savings in energy bills and direct day-to-day costs for low to moderate income individuals, and how we can leverage the BIL IRA monies coming from the federal government to do that. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Wesley Stefanik. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Delaware Association of Realtors. We have about 4,100 members plus an additional 500 that live outside of Delaware. Just a quick stat for everyone to consider. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Income, in 2022, the average wealth of a renter was $10,400 compared to $396,200 for a homeowner. As the primary facilitators of the marketplace for real property in Delaware, we want to see a community where everyone has the opportunity for safe and affordable places to call home, whether that's purchasing or renting one, even if home ownership is the better option for creating wealth. What will be evident, I believe, through our deliberations is that the profit motivation for building affordable housing types is very small, and we want to see options for developers. The outcome we seek is real incentives and the breakdown of regulatory barriers to building. So I look forward to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we are just about ready to move on to agenda item number 3. I have my DTI person is going to help to make sure that both people in the room and people online can see it. So just give us 2 minutes. Okay, so real quick, I want to check in with our virtual folks. Are you able to see the slide that says DSHA's role in affordable housing?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So much has been said, and again, thank you everyone for joining online and in person. I have speaking notes. My fantastic staff created speaking notes for me, but we are an agency of action, and I think I want to dive into our presentation and start talking about the task force. Before we get started, I do want to recognize our DSHA staff who are in the room, our Chief of Staff, Emily Cunningham, our Director of Housing Development, Stephanie Griffin, and of course, our Chief Strategy Advisor, Caitlin Delcalo, and Vanessa Cullen, thank you. Vanessa Cullen, one of our planners from our Policy and Planning Division. I do want to thank Caitlin for her work in getting this task force to this point. There's a lot of great work, as we hear, that is going to be done and needs to be done. But without further ado, I want to turn it over to Caitlin to get the presentation started. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you, Director Carney, and good morning, everyone. All right, so for today's presentation, if I can find my mouse. Oh gosh. There it is. All right, so for today's presentation, I'm going to give a brief overview of our agency. Then my colleague Stephanie is going to dive in a little bit deeper in terms of how we impact development in the state. And then I'll take back over and share some data from our 2023 housing needs assessment that speaks to the need for more supply. So Delaware State Housing Authority has three main roles that collectively help to promote affordable rental and homeownership opportunities for low and moderate income Delawareans. So those three roles are, we are the State Housing Finance Agency, or HFA, we are a Public Housing Authority, or PHA, and we also receive and administer community development funds, which are used to help finance the construction and preservation of affordable rental and homeownership units. So real quick, within our HFA role, we help to promote homeownership by providing affordable mortgage products and down payment and closing cost assistance. We also support existing homeowners by offering our statewide emergency repair program and foreclosure prevention assistance. As a public housing authority, we receive funding directly from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, to administer housing vouchers and to operate public housing units. That essentially makes us a landlord. It is very important to note that DSHA is one of 5 public housing authorities operating in the state of Delaware. Our service area as a PHA is Kent County outside of the city of Dover and Sussex County. But there's also Dover Housing Authority, Wilmington Housing Authority, Newark Housing Authority, and Newcastle County Housing Authority. Collectively, we cover the entire state with administering vouchers, and 4 of the 5 of us also have our own public housing portfolios. We also, within our PHA hat, administer SRAP, that is the State Rental Assistance Program. Those are state-funded vouchers that are issued to people in need on a referral basis through our partner agencies. And then last but not least, we help with community development. So I will turn it over to my colleague Stephanie to talk more in depth about that.
Good morning. I am Stephanie Griffin. I'm the Director of Housing Development for DSHA. We at Housing Development is responsible for the community development activities of the agency. So that includes the actual. Where is the mic?
I think
there is no mic. Sorry.
The mic is the computer.
Okay. So we are responsible for the actual physical construction of most of the work that happens in the state of Delaware. That includes both home ownership and rental activities. And then also some work with shelters and programming to assist with homelessness initiatives.
there's a whole bunch of other things, but I won't go into that. We can certainly talk about that offline. But we really quickly wanted to kind of go over some of the programs that DSHA offers through the funding sources that we have available. It's really important to remember that the funding sources that we use and that are allocated to the agency come with a lot of restrictions. So we create programming to reach certain demographics based on the requirements of those funding sources. And then we will match different funding sources to those specific programs that best meet the needs and can comply with those requirements. So this chart that we have up here is a really good overview of the different programs that we have. Focusing first on rental, you have the low-income housing tax credit program. That is a rental program that does both preservation and new creation of multifamily rental housing. It can go up to 80% AMI, and we match all of the different funding sources listed up there: HDF, Home, ARHP, and Trust Fund. I'm not going to read all these because that's a lot to read and I don't want to take too much time, but I just kind of wanted to do a quick overview of that. We have a couple other rental programs. We have the Special Populations Permanent Supportive Housing, the Mixed Income Market Fund, the Accelerator and Preservation Fund, and the Market Pressure Relief Fund. Those items that are noted specifically as the SLFRF ARPA dollars, those were created in response to the allocation of funding that we received from the state of Delaware to create that programming. Sorry, I don't want to, excuse me. Those programs are term limited because they're tied to the funding source that they have. However, there are some best practices that we have kind of learned and gleaned from them that we will continue to, as we revamp our programs, pull them into potentially the way that we administer the programs moving forward and the guidelines and regulations. We also have this home ownership section, which would be your strong housing. We have home ownership preservation and production, and then we have the statewide emergency repair and CDBG. The statewide emergency repair and CDBG mostly support repair programs for homeowners in Kent and Sussex County. And then Strong Neighborhood, Catalyst Fund, and then the home ownership preservation and production actually help to build and finance the construction of home ownership housing throughout the state. And then finally, we have the Downtown Development District Program. This program is not specifically a housing focused program. It is an economic development program. However, there is the opportunity to create both commercial and rental residential spaces with this. And we have actually seen some of our affordable communities successfully deploy the DDD program to help in their capital stack. So we did want to highlight that, but it is not specifically a housing focused program. So that's just a quick overview. Happy to discuss further if you want to afterwards. So
thank you so much, Stephanie. All right, moving right along. I want to share a little bit of information about why we are talking about supply. Obviously, there are a lot of housing issues that we could be talking about, but supply is really the most pressing need that we have right now. And we know this from a multitude of factors, including our 2023 housing needs assessment. So I'm going to share some of that data in a couple slides. But there's also a growing recognition among researchers that rates of homelessness are very closely tied to what's happening in the rental market. In fact, the relationship between homelessness homelessness is more closely linked to what's happening in the rental market than poverty level, substance abuse, behavioral health issues, etc. So housing supply really is the driving factor, or the lack thereof is the driving factor behind homelessness. And so there's some recent studies from Pew Charitable Trusts that demonstrate this. So by focusing on increasing supply, we can address the needs that we know we have from our housing needs assessment, and we can also hopefully stem the rising rate of homelessness in Delaware. I also want to mention that this also ties into disaster preparedness. My colleague, Vanessa Cullen, is our emergency management coordinator, and she heads up our disaster housing task force, which I think Dr. Spence had alluded to. And that is working on developing a disaster housing strategy. And what we know is the better off we can prepare our homeowners and renters before a disaster, the less onerous that recovery process is going to be after a disaster occurs. So if folks want to learn more about the Disaster Housing Task Force, you can certainly reach out to me or directly to Vanessa. All right, before we get to the data, we need to define what affordability actually is. So housing costs are considered affordable if you are spending no more than 30% of your budget or your income on housing. And those housing costs include rent and utilities, or if you're a homeowner, your mortgage, taxes, and insurance. If you are spending more than 30% of your budget on housing, you are considered cost burdened. And at that point, your housing is not affordable. If you're spending more than 50% of your income on housing, you are severely cost burdened and your housing is even less affordable to you. Now, we typically measure household income as a percentage of the area median income, or AMI. AMI is the middle income in a range, and it differs depending on whether you're looking at the state as a whole or the individual counties. This table here shows the area median income for a two-person household in Delaware and each county based on 2021 numbers. I'm not going to read through it for the sake of time, but those are the numbers. And additionally, when people talk about affordable home ownership, generally speaking, they are referring to homeownership units that are affordable for households making less than 100% AMI. Likewise, when people talk about affordable rentals, generally they are referring to rentals that are affordable for households making less than 80% AMI. Now let's talk about workforce housing. This definition comes from our housing needs assessment. And so it's typically considered housing that's affordable to households making up to 100% AMI, and that meets the needs of wage and service industry workers. And that second part of the definition is really important because a lot of our wage and service industry workers are making significantly less than 100% AMI. So if we're talking about a workforce development, we need to be very clear about which occupations, which employees we want to house. Depending on their occupation, they may not be able to afford the product that you are intending to offer. And so this table shows some examples of occupations and wages by income. So our extremely low income folks, those are people who are mostly in the labor force, senior households, or households where at least one member has a disability. So they're at the very low end of 0 to 30% AMI. If you are a cashier, if you work in childcare, if you work in food prep, you're probably very low income. You're probably at 30 to 50% of AMI. Moving up the income scale, between 50 and 80% AMI, that's going to cover people who are in construction, office and administrative work, nursing assistants, counselors. And if you're making 100% of AMI, then that's our teachers, our paramedics, our social workers, our electricians. So I just want everybody to keep in mind going forward, when we talk about workforce housing, we need to know which workforce we're talking about and how much they can afford. What is an affordable price point for that occupation? All right, now for the data. So this graph shows the shortage of affordable rental units by AMI. And I'm gonna do a little Vanna White demonstration here. So up here we see that we have just over 22,000 renters in Delaware who are making between 0 and 30% of AMI. But we only have 8,700 rental units that are priced to be affordable for those folks. So that leaves us with a deficit of over 13,600 rental units affordable at 0 to 30% AMI. Likewise, if we look at the 31 to 50% AMI income bracket, again, there's a shortage. We have more renters at this income level than we have units that are affordable to them. Down here, you're also going to see at the 120% AMI, this looks like a shortage, but it's not an actual housing need. What that is showing is what we call down renting. We have a lot of very high income renters who are making more than 120% AMI, but we don't have that many units that come just up to what they can afford. And so what they do is they wind up renting units that are even cheaper than what they can comfortably afford. And that creates scarcity for everybody else lower on the income rung. All right, now this graph shows the unaffordability in our for sale supply. So the way to read this graph, in blue, you see the distribution of renters by their income level. And the green bars show the homes that were for sale in Delaware in 2022 and which income level they were affordable for. So for example, if we're looking at the 51 to 80% AMI income bracket, we see that 20% of our renters make that income, but only 4% of the homes for sale that year were priced to be affordable to them. Ideally, these two distributions would overlap, and you would see similarly sized blue and green bars within each income bracket. But what we have is the opposite. It is very skewed, so much so that in 2022 in Delaware, 80% of the homes for sale were only affordable to buyers making more than 120% AMI. And to put a finer point on that, Root Policy Research, the consultant that prepared this study for us, determined that there is no housing market in Delaware where people between 50 and 100% AMI have a reasonable opportunity to become a homeowner, because the supply of for sale homes is just so small for what they can afford. Now I briefly want to talk about housing stock and unit type. This chart shows the relative share of our housing stock in each housing market by unit type. So the dark blue shows your traditional single family detached home. The sort of middle blue color shows single family attached. Those would be your townhomes and your row homes. We have duplexes in green. Orange shows units in 3 to 4 unit structures. And it goes on from there. And then the dark green shows our mobile homes. And what you can see is that overall in the state, we mostly have single family detached homes, followed by single family attached homes. And particularly in Kent and Sussex counties, there's also a significant share of mobile homes. Now, why does this matter? Housing type matters because different housing types offer different levels of affordability. So this chart shows the median home value in 2021 of different housing types in Delaware. And then the far right column shows how much cheaper each housing type is compared to your traditional single family detached. So you can see that in 2021, if you wanted to buy a single family attached home, that was typically going to be 45% cheaper than buying your single family detached. Duplexes come in at 27% cheaper. And the two housing unit types that were most affordable when compared to your single family detached were homes in 5 to 9 unit structures and homes in 50+ unit structures. And I just want to note that these units could be rental or homeownership, so apartments or condos. So the real takeaway here is single family detached is generally the least affordable home product if you're buying. In the rental market, it's a very similar picture. In the rental market, single family attached are the most expensive to occupy as a renter, followed by single family detached. And your best bargain as a renter are your duplexes and your 3 to 4 unit structures, so a triplex or a quad. Yes. Single family attached, you would have like probably 3 or more. Yes, townhouses or row homes. Okay, so now that we've talked about the housing types that we already have, this shows what we are looking to build. So this shows residential permit activity from 1990 all the way up to 2021. And you can see the blue shows single-family units. So the vast majority of our residential permitting activity is for single-family detached and attached homes. We are building very few units that are other housing types. So we are sort of doubling down on building more single-family detached and more single-family attached, even though we know that those housing types in many cases are less affordable for buyers and less affordable for renters. Another note about building permit activity is if we continue on pace with our permitting, we will produce enough units to keep up with growth. However, those new units will have to be priced to be affordable to meet the needs of people below 100% AMI. And this last content slide shows that more specifically. So in order to keep up with household growth, by 2030, we need to add an additional 24,400 affordable units. And this graph breaks it down by the level at which it needs to be affordable as a percentage of AMI, and it also breaks it down by owners and renters. So for example, if we're looking at the 51 to 80% AMI income bracket, we know that we need over 2,700 more homeownership units affordable for people at that income level. I see. I don't have that parsed out. And for the folks online, they may not have heard the question, but there was a question about, sorry, could you repeat it?
The question was, you're gonna build at the current rate.
Yes.
That we would have enough supply to meet the demand of housing in general. But the question was, is that also true for multifamily housing?
Right, yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, again, I don't know, David Edgell might know. He's shaking his head no. Okay, so this shows again the number of units that we need by affordability broken down by owner and renter. What I really want to emphasize is these units are in addition to our existing shortage of 19,400 rental units that are affordable for our 0 to 30 and 31 to 50 AMI. So we've already got this backlog of 19,000 plus affordable rental units. Now we need another 24,000 affordable units just to keep up with growth. And one final thing that I will just sort of share a disclaimer about is there is no one entity, agency, developer, or sector that can meet this need by themselves. It is going to have to take partnership and collaboration across sectors, private, public, nonprofit, etc. So I just don't want folks to think that any one developer has to go and build 24,000 units tomorrow. We can all take a piece of the pie. All right. So that is the end of the slides that I came prepared to share. Our housing needs assessment is 386 pages long, so I could stand here for the rest of the day, but we don't have that much time. I believe we have maybe 5 minutes for questions, but if there are none, we can also just keep moving. And I'm looking to our task force members online. Any questions? Great. All right. I will turn it over to our co-chairs to go over the charge, structure, and timeline of the task force. And just bear with me, everyone, as I get the next slide deck set up. Okay, I think we're ready. The arrow button's right here, or you can click.
Do you guys want me to click after I speak, or what do you want me to do?
Sure.
Okay, all right, right here, Caitlin? Did you
Oh,
say-
sorry.
Right here.
I've been.
Oh, there it is, right there. Okay, got it. Okay. Hi, everyone. The first slide that we have up here is the task force charge. What I will not do is I will not read this entire slide to you because it is there. Vanna, no, wait, Price is Right. It's there. And you also have it here in your handy dandy slide. So the task force charge, make findings and recommendations on how the state and local governments can promote the production of rental units and homes that are affordable at various income levels throughout Delaware. Next slide. There we go. Did you want me to keep going?
No. What's this one?
I think you need to hit the arrow button.
Okay.
All right, so we've got a lot of folks in the room who have a lot of great experience, and I think we've already talked about this, that we want to find solutions to our issues and come up with a clear process forward with actionable items. That is certainly my goal, our goal. I think Kendra mentioned it before. We're about action. You know, it's nice to have the talk, but it's nice to have the action backing that up. And so a lot of these solutions are going to come from the subcommittees. I might be hopping around in different couple areas. But when we get into the subcommittees, that's where a lot of the meat and potatoes are going to happen, where we identify the problems, identify the solutions, and then work into clear actionable items, either for state agencies to be able to do themselves, or local governments to be able to do themselves, to have a model plan, or even for the state government to do more action to incentivize the actions that we need for affordable housing. I think that basically covers that slide. Does anybody have any questions on that slide? No? All right, thank you. Yes, absolutely.
What type of funding for settle down, because I know that many resources out here do not support single home occupancy. When that's all their income can afford. Most of the clientele that we have receive SSI, SSDI, which is only $945 a month. So to get any, they can't afford any cushion. The only thing that they can afford is a single room or a shared living environment. That they may not be able to, they may die in a shared living environment, housing situation, because that's where their income avoids. So how are we going to address those people and whether or not they're going to be extensive funding for those people that need the help?
Yeah, and so this is a great question. And so this is one of the reasons why this task force is here to address the issues between 0 to 30, 30 to 50, all those income ranges, all the different types of housing styles that are needed. And this is a collaborative approach. So what we are asking, that's why we have Dr. Spence from Legal Local Governments. I mean, he's there to represent, the towns and things of that nature that will help us with zoning issues that may need to be addressed to get some of the results that we need. That's why the Office of Planning is here. That's why the SHA, as a housing finance agency, is here. The builders are here. So there are many folks in this room that have brilliant ideas that's why we're bringing them all together. Because it's not one single person, as Caitlin mentioned, it's not one single person in this room that can solve all the issues. But can we make progress on some of them. And this task force is going to make progress on some of them. And that will include discussions about SROs and shared living facilities and things of that nature. And how do we reduce those barriers? And so, yes, we will be getting to those through the work of this task force and through the work of these subcommittees. But so thank you.
Hello,
Yes,
can you talk in this?
we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, the chat is not open. Is there a room for public comment at any time?
There will be, it is on the agenda, and we'll make sure that we make time for that, for both those that are present today, those online, and if you'd like to submit written public comments, you can do so. And we'll make sure that direction is provided shortly. Yes, thank you for that. So it's my pleasure to present the task force timeline, and I will hand it over to Caitlin after this slide to touch a little bit about the subcommittees, because as Russ mentioned, the subcommittees is where a lot of the work will be done, talking about not only housing production, and again, leaning on that core objective of our task force is that we're always going to come back to housing production, affordable housing production. So today is the first task force meeting, kicking off the task force. We have our scheduled second task force meeting for October 3rd at 1 p.m. Thank you, Caitlin. Our subcommittees will be meeting October through December. And the third full task force meeting will be reaching out to our subcommittees and getting their reports and their recommendations. Finally, at the top of the year, February, we'll be doing our fourth task force meeting with a final report to the governor's office and the General Assembly on March 1st. So that is our timeline. It is a aggressive timeline. It is needed for this critical need. So thank you, Caitlin, again, for helping us move forward. Caitlin will be serving with DSHA, will be serving as our core contact and our key contact for the task force as we move forward. So Caitlin, please.
Thank you, Director. Okay. All right, so the legislation that created this task force requires that we have 5 subcommittees. So those are our regulatory and permitting subcommittee. David Edgell has graciously agreed to chair that subcommittee. We have finance and development, which will be chaired by Amy Walls. Thank you, Amy. We have a construction subcommittee. Thank you, Mike Ryman, for volunteering to chair that. And then we have 2 more subcommittees, manufactured housing and community focus groups. We have not identified chairs for those 2 yet. And part of the reason why is because we're actually still waiting for 4 more appointments to the full task force via the governor's office. So, you know, hopefully we get those pretty soon, and then we can identify chairs for those 2 subcommittees. All right, so each subcommittee has to be chaired by a full task force member. Again, this is per the legislation. They can have up to 9 members total, including the chair, and they will meet approximately 4 times outside of the regular task force meeting. So October through December, I envision each task force meeting once per month. Then we'll all come back in January for a full task force meeting to report out on preliminary recommendations. And if needed, the subcommittees can meet one more time at the end of January to clean up recommendations before our 4th and hopefully final task force meeting where we vote. Additionally, the legislation specifies specific topics that each subcommittee is supposed to address. So I would refer you to HB 442 for that. And some of the subcommittees are also required to have representation from specific agencies or specific industries. I see the hand, I'll get to it in a minute. What's going to happen between now and the second task force meeting in October is our co-chairs are going to meet with the subcommittee chairs to decide who should serve on each subcommittee. We have already received interest and volunteers from some folks. And if folks who are online or in the room are interested in serving, please email housing.taskforce@delaware.gov to throw your hat in the ring. It'll be helpful if you can attach a
We can't hear you.
I think they froze.
I think so. Let's just give them a second. Is anyone able to hear anything?
No, I shot them a text. I'm hoping they respond.
No.
No, I texted one of the members as well that I know was there to see if they can let her know she's frozen.
Good morning, everyone. Just hold tight for a few minutes. Our internet connection drops, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say that again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please be patient. Thank you.
Okay, it's been an interesting morning. I apologize. We lost internet on our computer. I want to check in real quick with our task force members who are online. I'm not sure where it cut out for you, but are there any questions about the task force charge, composition, any of that?
Yes, hi, my name's Selena Butcher. I'm here. It cut out when you were talking about every committee has to have 9 members, including the chair, blah, blah, blah. I guess the structure of it. And I just wanted to see if you could elaborate on that and if members of the public such as myself could be a part of it. I know you were starting to explain it before it cut out, so.
Yes, sure. So again, each subcommittee has to be chaired by a full task force member. They can add an additional 8 people to their subcommittee, which gives us 9. The legislation requires that certain subcommittees have representation from specific agencies or industries. But if you are interested in serving on a subcommittee or being considered, please email housing.taskforce@delaware.gov. Indicate your name, your credentials, which subcommittee you'd like to be considered for, and if you have a bio or a resume, please attach it. I will be collecting emails through the end of next Friday. So people have a week and a day to indicate their interest in serving on a subcommittee. Please email housing.taskforce@delaware.gov. Once we have all of the names by the end of next Friday, our co-chairs and our subcommittee chairs will meet offline to go through the list of volunteers and make decisions about who will serve on the subcommittees. And then when we reconvene in October, we will announce the subcommittee membership. Yes, great. Okay, so Dr. Spence just made a great note. We still need a chair for our manufactured housing subcommittee, and we still need a chair for our community focus group subcommittee. And again, we're also still waiting for the governor to appoint 4 task force members. So that is why we're a little bit, we're getting there. It's a process. Okay. At this point, we are going to start our public comment portion of the agenda. Each person is going to have 2 minutes to speak. I am going to pull up an actual timer so that folks can see how much time they have left. All right. So all right, Emily, could you hand me the sign-in sheet so I can see if anybody wants to do public comment in person? Yeah, that'd be fine. All right, so we're going to do in-person public comment first. Yes, because otherwise people will not be able to hear them. Right, I'm going to stand next to you so I can reset the button. All right.
Put 10 minutes on it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Walls. I'm the CEO of Veteran Services, and I advocate on behalf of homeless veterans, veterans that are in prison that are coming out and can't get a place to live. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to Karen Speakman over there and the Good Neighbors people. You guys do one hell of a job. Keep it up. Small developers are having a problem. There's federal money, hundreds of millions of dollars coming into this state. There are federal set-aside requirements for small businesses, women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, and veteran-owned businesses. We're not getting any of that money. The development money that's coming into this state is going to big developers. One of the biggest reasons for that is, as a small developer, I don't have the initial capital to buy a place and rehab it. I'd have to, basically that capital would have to be set aside for 6 months to a year while you develop the property before you can start moving forward. The money that's available is going to big developers that have millions of dollars they can set aside for these projects. We need the doors open for small businesses, especially minority businesses and veteran-owned businesses. Thank you.
Thank you for staying on time, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next in-person person is on her way up. So I'm gonna reset it.
Good morning. My name is Rena Scott. I am a qualified tenant advocate with Community Legal Aid Society in our housing unit. And I really just wanted to say that we are happy to hear the things that we're hearing today, especially covering the communities that we service, those people in that 0 to 30% range. So we're really happy to be a part of this meeting today. We look forward to supporting this task force, and we really hope that we can be a support to the subcommittees. And my boss and executive director will address you further. Thank you.
Set it for you. Let me know when you're ready. All right.
Okay. Good morning. Just to remind everyone, I'm Dr. Kevin Spence, the Executive Director of the Delaware League of Local Governments. And I would like to make 2 points. First of all, thank you to the co-chairs for appointing me. I'm excited about this position and serving and advocating for affordable housing. But I'm bound by the 57 members who are part of the municipalities in the state of Delaware. So keep that in mind, that when we're looking at local solutions and local control is really very big with the league. And also I'm bound by the 11 executive committee members who are elected officials from across the state. So while personally I may advocate for a certain position, just keep in mind I'm bound by the wishes of the local members of my organization. Secondly, I know the local, as we're looking at the subcommittees and the task force in general, I know that the municipalities are always coming to me with not a one size fits all, as the woman in the back pointed out. SROs might be appropriate for one geographic area, but not another one in the state. And they're always coming to me asking me if I have like a tear sheet or a series of maybe 10 to 20 different options that would be appropriate, because what's appropriate for Bethany might not be appropriate for Felton or Laurel or Newcastle, for example. So just keep that in mind. And again, I'm excited to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Okay, our next in-person speaker is on his way up to the podium. Okay, we're ready for you. All right.
Dover City Councilman Fred Neal, representing the 3rd District. I've been in office for 3 terms. I'm a de facto representative of every single person who is a tenant in an apartment, in a rental house, or on leased land. I live on leased land and have since I moved to Delaware. I know what's happening here. I asked Caitlin to send to you 4 documents to introduce the concept of paying a profit to landlords as we do with utilities. What they spend, they should receive a profit. What is happening now is those of us who have moved into communities that were financed by Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae are being bought out by private equity. Private equity is raising those rents that were meant to be affordable out of sight. And it doesn't come back. The only thing that will bring it back is the concept we use for utilities. I want it to be considered, and I fill a niche within this body. There's no one representing anyone from the tenants per se, unless if you live it here, live it in an apartment or a rental house or on leased land. No one here represents a municipality. I fill that role. No one here has been fighting for this for a longer period of time of bringing real equity. We have 2 members of this body who own leased land communities, which is diametrically opposed to the idea of keeping rents affordable. We have to move in that direction. I'm planting the seed. I yield.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Malone? Okay, just hit the button as soon as you're up there. All right.
I'm staring right at me.
Yep.
I'm Judson Malone. I'm the executive director of the Springboard Collaborative. We are the developer of the Springboard Pallet Village you may have heard of in Georgetown. It is an innovation in how we approach homelessness. It is a form of SRO. There are 40 individual sleeping cabins, communal showers, and provisions for meals. There's a point made earlier that I really appreciate, and that is the most direct attributable cause of homelessness is the lack of housing. Or to put it more bluntly, it's the housing, stupid. We really need to address that gap, the huge gap that exists for incomes at or significantly below 30%. And so our approach is to realize that permanent housing takes years to develop, and we are years behind already. In the meantime, we have people waiting under the bridges, on the streets, and in the woods. So with the village approach that we are developing, and future ones will be modular, quickly assembled, meet housing codes, and can be rapidly deployed. We can deploy a village to house people that are literally homeless in a matter of months, as opposed to years to develop the permanent housing. So what we're calling it is interim housing. It's not meant to be permanent. It is, though, meant to fill a gap until permanent housing can get built. And I'm running out of time, but the concept programmatically is low barrier navigation center, and you'll be hearing more about that from us. Thank you.
Also, we are almost at time for our meeting. However, we did have a late start because of tech issues. So I'm looking to our co-chairs. Can we spend another 15 minutes on public comment? Okay, so we will take public comment through 11:45. We'll get to as many folks as we can, but you are always welcome to submit your comments in writing to housing.taskforce@delaware.gov.
Thank Karen Speakman again from Neighborhood Partners. I'm gonna have a technical question in terms of what's in the bill. And in the subcommittees, can we add things into this, what we're discussing? For instance, rental subsidies, not in here at all. I'm asking whether we can discuss the only way we can really make housing affordable for very low income people is to have rental subsidies. So we've got to include that in the discussion, I believe strongly. Because that makes it work. And the other thing is that I would ask that we add justice involved citizens to the last category of the community focus groups, because when people leave prison in this state, they receive at the most $400. If we want them to stay out of prison, there needs to be a way to make them have a place to live, get back on their feet, and move forward. So, thank you.
Reset this for you.
Good morning, Dan Atkins from Community Legal Aid Society. Thank you to our legislative leaders who have recognized the importance of this issue and creating this task force. And I just want to indicate that Class C will lend its support to the various subcommittees and its expertise in whatever way we can. I'm reminded of an old adage that for every complex problem, there's a simple solution that's probably wrong. And this is complicated stuff, multifaceted problems. And as several commenters have noted, yes, win-wins are great. Sometimes we're going to have to make some tough choices, though. And I look forward to supporting you in that effort. Thank you.
You? Are those the last in-person? No, okay, wow. Okay.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne. I work with the Homes Campaign, and I'm also hoping that we can look at this complex issue in a much broader way. I do think that we need to address the supply of affordable housing, but I think multiple people have come up and said that simply providing more affordable housing without addressing the needs of people now is going to leave a lot of people without the help that they're desperately asking for. And so I do hope that we can look at some of the things that Karen said. I think what Dan was alluding to was also like there are going to be some interim needs, like please don't forget about the people who are currently experiencing homelessness. And affordable housing is going to be great for them in the long run, but for the now, they're not even going to be able to qualify, even if we were to solve it. So there's a lot of things that we have to deal with regarding evictions and the records that people have. We have to deal with the fact that there are going to be some super low income people that just aren't going to qualify for a lot of the housing that we're going to build. And we should not rely only on the market, which is what I'm hearing right now, is like a capitalist solution to this issue that was caused by capitalism. And so I just don't think we should rely fully on the market to solve this. We are going to have some government interventions. Obviously, you guys are all thinking that government interventions is kind of what you're going to propose. So I'm sure that's a part of the plan, but I think there's going to be a lot more interventions that are focused specifically on renters and specifically on people experiencing homelessness that might get overlooked just because of the nature of the task force and nature of the makeup of the task force. So I do hope that you'll consider adding on people who are experiencing homelessness. I hope that you'll consider adding on people who are currently renting, like in areas that they're struggling, not just people who are renting just anywhere. And I do hope you'll consider making sure that you look at people who have a justice involved background, to make sure that they're included in the subcommittees and have a vote or at least a say. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is making her way up. Welcome.
All right. Hello, I am Lisa Rice, owner of Foxtrot Woody's Mom, LLC. I want to thank you all for being here and for your participation in our Affordable Housing Task Force. I look forward to future meetings to share with you how and why we can use this opportunity to satisfy the state's obligation to house disabled adults within the community. I ask that you add members to advocate for the disabled adults in Delaware. We've had an affordable housing task force since 1773. Thank you very much.
Right, our next speaker is making her way up. Right, Marva, you are up. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Marva Hammond. I'm the president of Southbridge Community Services. My dad and I were just two people that recognized that affordable housing wasn't really a thing and it needed to be a thing. So we bought a blighted building in Southbridge. We've created 24 efficiency units that are beautiful. In our phase one, we housed folks from the Hope Center, and we did 30% of their gross income. We did not check credit. We did not look at criminal background because we believe that those were barriers to folks that needed housing. And we're coming up, it's been a year that we've had that first phase of folks living in our properties. Our median rent's about $250 to $300 a month, and that includes all their utilities. We also recognize that getting utilities turned on and keeping them paid was a barrier. So we wanted to make sure that that was not a barrier for these folks. I'm happy to say that in 12 months of folks living there, we've had zero issues with people paying their rent. People traditionally don't not pay their rent because they don't want to, they don't pay it because they can't. Something happened that stopped them from being able to pay that. If they're going to be late, I get a text message or a call and they always pay it. Our phase 2 that we just got our certificate of occupancy for is for senior veterans. And we're looking forward to getting them housed. But again, my dad and I saw a need. We financed this with our own funds. So we put about $3 million into this project. So it's not that it can't be done, it can be done. Whether you're utilizing a program or you're utilizing your own funds is important. And we need to collaborate together to make these affordable housing opportunities for the folks that are most vulnerable. So thank you. Thank you, Marva. All right.
So it'll be Vanessa Cullen and then,
Is that the last for in person? All right, we have 2 more in-person folks and then we will get to the folks online. Button.
Off the timer. Hi, my name is Vanessa Cullen. I'm DSHA's Emergency Management Coordinator. So my focus is a statewide disaster housing strategy. I do have a task force for that, and it's really exciting to see people that sit on that task force in this room. That means that they see the overlap from this problem to the one that I'm also looking at. I wanted to come up here to say that disaster housing, disasters in general, are just a lens that we should look through when looking at affordable housing. It's not a focus of everybody's, I understand that, but keeping in mind the frequent weather events that we get in Delaware while we're working on these subcommittees can save us exacerbating an existing problem down the road. So I was thinking that the regulatory and permitting subcommittee, the construction subcommittee, they both could take into consideration like mitigation or building code standards. And if we can protect our housing stock or strengthen it as we build it, we don't have to worry about rebuilding quite so much down the road. So I will give you guys back 45 seconds. I just wanted to make that note. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Come on up. There we go.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Rachel Stucker, Director at Housing Alliance Delaware. I just wanted to thank leadership for making affordable housing a priority for Delaware and for all the work that this task force is going to do. I wanted to share the thought about how when we start talking, everyone needs housing. And when we start talking about housing, we can often start talking about everything else because everyone needs housing and housing influences everything. But I wanted to encourage members of the task force to try to stay as laser focused as possible on affordable housing production because we know that when we have enough affordable housing for people, a lot of those other things are alleviated. So staying laser focused on the goal of the task force is a good thing to do, and I just wanted to share that. I think the goal of the task force is the right one in terms of producing more units, making sure that everyone can get access to those units. One thing I wanted to share in terms of our work as an organization is the importance of supportive housing as part of that. When we're talking about folks that, who may be more at risk of being forced into homelessness, when we're talking about folks with special needs or people with disabilities, making sure that supportive housing is a part of what we're talking about when we're talking about producing more housing. Thank you.
Okay. All right, for the folks who are on virtually, what we're going to do is if you are a member of the public and you wish to share 2 minutes worth of public comments, I'm going to need you to raise your hand with the raise hand button. It should be somewhere towards the top of your screen. So I'm going to give a minute for folks to raise their hands. Okay. I am not seeing raised hands. Emily, do you see any raised hands? Okay. I'll give folks just another few seconds to consider whether they want to raise their hand. And as a reminder, I will accept public comment to be attached to the minutes for this meeting through close of business tomorrow. Okay, we have a hand. So, let's see how I do this. Oh gosh. I see the hand. I'm just trying to find the person so I can. Oh yeah. Is there any way you can? Okay, so the person with the raised hand with the last name Bell, if you can unmute yourself and I will start the timer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shakaya Bell, and I am just a member of the community. I did work briefly for the HOS program when the HOS program was up and running through Delaware State Housing Authority, and the biggest barrier we came across, as Marvin stated, was credit. So as affordable housing is being built, how can we make sure those who do not have good standing credit can qualify for affordable housing?
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other raised hands? I am not seeing any. Okay, so again, we will accept written public comments to housing.taskforce@delaware.gov through close of business tomorrow, which is Friday. And if you are interested in being considered for a subcommittee, please email me at housing.taskforce@delaware.gov by the end of next Friday. We will not consider any volunteers who do not meet that deadline of next Friday. So please email, indicate which subcommittee you're interested in, your name, your organization, and attach a bio or resume if you have one. All right, that concludes public comment. That was the last agenda item. Checking with the co-chairs to see if we can have a motion to adjourn. All right, the motion has been seconded. Thank you all for coming to the first meeting of the Affordable Housing Production Task Force.